Hello Tech Pros, episode 159.
Just get out of your comfort zone. You're losing a lot of opportunity if you're not out there connecting with people and creating some good professional contacts.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to introduce our featured guest today, Alysse Metzler. Happy Friday, Alysse.
Happy Friday to you, too.
Are you ready to party on this weekend?
Oh, yeah. My life is just so exciting. I have a lot of laying out at the pool and working out to do.
Hot dog. That sounds like a blast, man. I need to spend more time at the pool. I'm on this microphone all the time. I'm at this editing station, all the time doing these podcast episodes. And I always have the Sunday Being Unplugged shows where I talk about how work-life balance is important and how we need to get out to the pool a lot more and just completely unwind and unplug. But sometimes I feel like a complete failure there because since entering this entrepreneurship journey that I'm on, like I hardly ever unplug, and I got a pool right in the backyard, and I'm never there playing in it. So it's like something's definitely wrong. Get priorities mixed up or something.
Yeah, I definitely make it a priority at least once a weekend. Just get out there for a couple hours and relax because it's a good time to do some soul searching and kind of regroup with everything since the week is always so busy. So definitely get to do that, Chad.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We're going to have to bring you back on a Sunday Being Unplugged episode to talk about how you are able to unplug from all the different things, especially in your role, which is kind of a 24/7 job. I mean, you got people, connecting with you all the time. But first, let's introduce you to our audience here today. So Alysse Metzler, currently a senior recruiter fighting the war on technical talent, has a raw recruiting talent, over 12 years of corporate recruiting experience. She stumbled into the industry while still in college and immediately fell in love with recruiting. She's helped corporations in the mortgage industry, banking, for-profit education, technical, sports and entertainment, and video game industries search across the globe for top talent. Alysse genuinely cares for her candidates, as I can attest to, and has the ability to connect with them on a personal level. This ability allows her to find the right career path for all of her candidates and truly sets all of her hires up for success. Alysse's career evolved not only finding the best talent in the industry, but also helping America get back to work. Her life's mission is to help people of all ages and backgrounds find their dream job. She's taking all of the lessons that she's learned in her 12 years of recruiting and wrote the Recruiting Snitch, Recruiting Secrets to Help Land Your Dream Job. Alysse believes that by understanding what a recruiter thinks, an application can achieve better results from their interviews and their job search. So Alysse, that was an amazing bio there. You've done a lot of great stuff. And just full transparency for the audience, Alysse was actually a recruiter that helped me land a position just a year or so ago.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It was, it's a lot of the people that I hire are usually based on my professional network. And I ended up talking to you through a good friend of mine, Sarah, who works for a recruiting agency. And the cool thing about that situation was we weren't even open to using agencies to fill my position at that time. But through that personal connection with Sarah, she brought your name up and took a look at your resume, and I talked to my management and we got the approval for it. So just another testament for, being able to communicate with people and network with people, because you didn't even know that job existed unless you went to Sarah and unless Sarah knew me. So that was a kind of cool situation there for you.
Yeah, it was very cool from my end. So I as a young software developer 1,000 years ago, right? I always, because of my social anxiety and just because I like technology and just because I was uncomfortable in building relationships with people, I focused on my skills, my technical skills, right? And I did not focus on relationships. I did not focus on team building and relationship building and so forth. And it was because I think in many ways it was because I was so loyal to the companies that I got hired to that I slowly started to build relationships inside those organizations just as other people join the team, now I can meet them one-on-one. And so that worked for me. But getting out of those organizations where I had, 5 years at this company, 5 years at another company, 13 years at another company, that's a long time. And to get out and to do something different is it makes a lot of people anxious, makes me very anxious to okay, I got to step out of my comfort zone and do something completely different. And in this case, I had literally moved across the country, right? I moved from the Midwest out to the East Coast and didn't know anybody, I thought, but come to find out that I had some personal connections from my personal and business relationships out in Oklahoma that had connections with people here in Florida. And I talked to an individual who was a recruiter, and I thought he was still in Oklahoma. Comes to find out, he was literally right down the street. And so when I told him my story of, hey, I'm looking for stuff, I'm here in Central Florida, IT management, software development management, all that kind of stuff. He said, okay, well, let me put it out to my network. Meanwhile, your friend, Sarah, was right there knocking him on the back of the head with a ruler saying, hey, who's that you're talking to?
Right.
I know my friend Alysse needs somebody. And it was just a really interesting testament to it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right, 100%. And that's one of the biggest things that I find with people that I speak to and the clients that I work with is their biggest issue is while they're in their current job, they don't think about expanding their brand and their network while they're in their current job. They only think about it when they need a job or when they're looking or they're desperate. And at that point, it's too late. When you're currently employed, that's the best time to start to create some connections, because you don't want connections just because you need them at that moment and you're desperate, because those connections know that they're not genuine. The best time to start a genuine connection is when you don't need that person, when it's just connecting over a similar background or a similar topic, or if you're at a networking event and you meet somebody that you just connect with. It's better to make those connections when you don't need that person, when you genuinely want to be with them from a professional standpoint. So in that way, when you are on the hunt or want something different from a career perspective, you can reach out to them. And it's genuine. And that's so many people don't realize that. They just think, oh, I'm currently employed. I'm somewhat happy with my job. What do I need to talk to other people and make more friends and professional contacts because I'm happy, I'm good. Well, next year you may not be good, or the year after that, or your company may go through a layoff, or you may have a new manager in the next year that you don't get along with. I mean, there's so many things that can happen, and that's when you're going to realize at that time, oh crap, I don't know anybody. And nowadays with the war on talent, and there's a lot of positions open, but there's a lot of talent out there as well. And you really have to know people to know about those open roles that may not even be posted, just like in your situation. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you got out of your shell a little bit and realize now the importance of that. I mean, at this time too, anybody who says I'm just an introvert, I'm shy, so I can't do that. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's not an excuse anymore. Like, you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to make those connections. There's even though you're an introvert and don't find your energy with connecting with people, you're losing a lot of opportunities by just throwing that excuse out there that you're shy. This world, you really need to get out of that shell. So I'm glad you figured that out.
Thank you. It's been a process. This wasn't an overnight thing. It's been a long process throughout my life, throughout my career, to kind of realize this and take it to heart. And so many times I did blow it off, and I'm like, no, you know what? I've got a great job. It's fine. Everything's wonderful. It's a big company. Like, the job security here is wonderful. I'm never gonna leave. And because I found my comfort zone here, I plan on just retiring from this place 30, 40 years from now. Won't that be awesome? Amazing. Then I'll never have to look for another job again. I don't need this LinkedIn thing. I don't need to keep my resume updated. And goodness gracious, I certainly don't need to go out and network and social interact with people. And that's obviously not the case, right? I mean, even though when you find a great job, when you find a great career, when you find a great industry, things still happen. There's volatility all the time, and there's no such thing as permanency like anywhere.
No, no, not at all. I mean, I worked at Electronic Arts and EA Sports for 3.5 years, and you think that that's a stable company, which it is for the most part, but it still has its up and downs. And as a recruiter, you're only employed as long as the company's growing. So I had 3.5 years in stock and bonus, and I thought I was nice and cushy until literally one day out of the blue, I was called into my manager's office and we were going through a layoff, and that was it. I mean, I had no warning, nothing. So, yeah, even if you're working for a quote unquote stable company or in a full-time permanent position, you need to keep your LinkedIn updated. You need to have your resume constantly revamped. I would say yearly, have somebody look at it, add your skills to it. Because again, you don't want to be in that position where you're going to be desperate and needy, because then you're not going to put your best work forward. That desperation will come across. So
it does come across. I've been in situations where, as a hiring manager or just as a technical lead in an organization, and people approach me, either acquaintances that I had known years and years ago and had never, I haven't had a lot of communication with since maybe we were in high school together, or we worked at a different place, or we knew somebody that knew somebody, or just a complete stranger approach and say, "Hey, Chad, I want to get to know you. I want to be friends with you. Can we go out for lunch? Can we get a coffee or whatever?" I'm like, "Okay, yeah, cool. That sounds fun." And then when we go out, it's like, "Do you have any job openings at your company?" Well, no, not right now. We're actually, diversifying and all this. Oh, well, never mind. And then I never hear from that person again. I'm like, well, gee, I guess I was just a step for them, a means to an end for them to try to secure their next position in their career. And they didn't really want to have lunch with me. They're just kind of using me or using the circumstance to get in front of a potential job. And that felt, kind of not so good.
So then let me ask you, if they contacted you maybe a few months before that and wanted to catch up, and you found out things were going good and you talked about your families and friends and maybe grabbed a beer or something, and then maybe a couple months before that they talked to you again, and then maybe 6 months later they contact you and they need a job, would you have been actually more open to helping them because you knew that, they had contacted you before and it was more of a genuine connection and they just needed help at that time?
Oh, absolutely. Right.
Exactly.
So if we create this relationship, if we foster this relationship and we just stay in touch every now and then, I just know what's going on. I know you got a great career. I know you never want to leave. I know you're struggling in this area, and we had a big win over here. That's awesome. And we're celebrating life together. And then when there's an opportunity, it's like, okay, I know you're in this position, because and I know where this position came from. This position in your life came from where you need another job. I know what it's been like for the last 6 months or the last year or 10 years that we've been having this relationship together, right? So now I'm going to be an advocate on your behalf, regardless of if there's a position inside my company, inside my department. I'll fight for one to get open for you. And if that doesn't work, then I'll help be a reference or whatever else I can do to help you land your next job somewhere else.
Exactly. And it's not about connecting with, or it's not about really collecting people as a network. It's about connecting with people. So that's why when I tell people to go to career fairs or networking events, sometimes people think they need to go and talk to as many people as possible because they just have had so many people tell them it's a numbers game. Just talk to people. It's a numbers game. Well, I don't believe in that. I think when you go to a networking event, you need to find one person, just one person, and have a meaningful conversation with them where you connect on a different level. And I'm not saying it needs to be this like romantic thing or spiritual,
right, sure.
Anything. Like maybe you realize you went, you knew people from the same college, or you both have 2 children around the same age, or you may go to the same, gym or whatever. And or you're the same sports team you like. I mean, it's just finding something where you connect with somebody where you could see yourself hanging out with them, just again for coffee or grabbing a drink or something, just to talk about life. And because we have those people in our life. You have your friends that you contact because you generally want to know how they're doing, and then you have your friends who are like, I don't really care, but they're really nice, they're fun, and then you just different levels of circles that you have. So when you're at a networking event, I always tell people to connect with at least just just one person. That's it. Don't go around passing your business cards and saying, oh, what do you do? Okay, cool. Well, I do this. Okay, let's exchange business cards. Like what does that accomplish? It accomplishes nothing. And the thing that people don't realize is when they talk to people, a human's mind automatically wants to figure out what that person can immediately do for them. It's our selfish intuition. It's our way that we go about. And when you need a job or when you need to, maybe sell a product, you're always thinking about me, me, me. How can I have people help me? Well, that's how you're going to fail. That's how networking fails. It's not about what people can do for you. It's about what you can do for others. And as soon as you switch that mentality when you're in a networking event, or again, when I say networking event, I use that loosely. I mean, networking is even if you're just waiting in line for a dinner table and people are sitting around you and you've got 20 minutes where people are just kind of talking to each other, that's networking, right? Anytime you're not truly alone, you're in a networking event. So when you are, when you're out and you're connecting with people, that's your time to really to connect with somebody and get to know them and not just look at it as what can they do for me? It's about what you can do for others. And then in return, when you need somebody, they're going to be there for you. And it just bothers me when I go to events and people are always like just shoving their business card in my face, talking about, their product and da-da-da. And it's like, well, how can you help me maybe? What can you do for me? So it's just, I wish when I'm in these networking events, people aren't just shoving things down my throat of them saying, me, me, me. I wish they would just come up to me and say, so what is it that you do? And how can I help you? Is there a time maybe where we can sit down and I can learn more about you and your experience and what challenges you have? And maybe we can, mutually help each other out. That right there would be a way better approach than people, going the opposite way of just kind of throwing business cards in my face and promoting their products and not even really caring about what I do. But anytime I've created good relationships, it's always been based off of mutual agreement, not even agreement, but mutual help in the terms of me wanting to help somebody's business and promote their products or help them with, maybe sitting down for an hour and having a consultation for free or something. And then in return, they're going to help me in the future. So I just think moving forward, when people go, they need to look at networking as connecting and not collecting people.
Yeah, I love that philosophy, Alysse, and I really appreciate that advice of really connecting with just one individual, just one person in that networking event. Because when you are an introvert, when you are a shy person, and you get that advice that, you do need to collect. It's a numbers game, like you said. You need to go out there and just hit the streets and have a stack of business cards and hand out 1,000 of them. And the more people that you can collect their cards with, eventually it's going to turn into something. Well, that can be so stressful. Like, how do I do that? Do I just interrupt a conversation, throw a card their way? Do I fold them up into little paper airplanes and like dive bomb people from across the room? I mean, what do I do? It's so stressful. But just, okay, take a breath. Like, chill out, Chad. It doesn't matter if there's 20 people there or there's 200 people there or there's 2,000 people there at that conference. You just need to find one person. And just today, tonight, whenever this event is, just try to find one person that you can have an honest, like, human conversation with about life, about the weather, about small talk, and then get into, when the time is right, the stuff that you do and the stuff that they do. And maybe ask them first, ask them all the questions. Hey, tell me about your product. Tell me about your service. Tell me about your stuff. And then they will love to open up and tell you all about their amazing self. And then once you know that, then you can see if there's an opportunity to help them and then, trade that information.
Exactly. Yeah. Stop looking at it as me, me, me when you're talking to people and start to think about others first. And I promise you're going to start to build better relationships.
That's awesome. Alysse, in just a moment, I want to ask you about your book that you wrote and the Recruiting Snitch, how it can help us like really take these things to heart and allow us to build better connections inside and outside of our workplace so that we could land our dream job. But first, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Hello Tech Pros. Want to be a guest on the show? Chad Bostic here, and I'm helping professionals who work with technology build a personal brand and get connected to an audience of thousands of technologists, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and investors. Download my cheat sheet of interview questions and apply to be a guest today by texting Hello Podcast to 44222 or visit hellotechpros.com/guest. Once again, text Hello Podcast with no space in the middle to 44222 or visit hellotechpros.com/guest. Are you new to podcasting? Are you looking for a fast, high-quality, yet budget-friendly podcast production team? Let TransSource Media take care of you. With a team of professional audio and video editors, writers, and graphic artists, they can help you build your podcast from planning, post-production, and platform submission. Using only cutting-edge software and studio equipment, they're here to make each and every show sound at its best. To get a free quote, please visit www.transsourcemedia.com or send them an email at marketing@transsourcemedia.com or call them at 209-505-5693. TransSource Media, transforming businesses through the power of multimedia. Okay, we're back with Alysse Metzler. Alysse is a senior recruiter fighting the war on technical talent, and she's been in this industry for over 12 years, and she's helped a lot of people, including me, find a dream job that was just absolutely amazing. She's been sharing us some tips about how to connect with people, how to build relationships with people outside of that desperation when you're like, oh my gosh, I need a job. Like I just got laid off. Like I got to find something. I got bills to pay. Like I need insurance, right? And that desperation is like not a good time to go out and try to find relationships. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but the better thing is to invest in these relationships ahead of time. So Alysse, you wrote this book, The Recruiting Snitch, Recruiting Secrets to Help Land Your Dream Job. And you got other advice on how to develop these relationships when we're in our job. And prior to earlier in the conversation, you were talking about how important it is to focus on our personal brand while we're still working. So maybe, I don't know, I just feel like I threw like 4 questions at you at once. So let's start with the personal brand. Why is the personal brand so important? What is it? And then we'll get into the other stuff in a minute.
Sure. So personal branding now is more important nowadays more than ever, just because the competition is so high. There are obviously more applicants and more people looking for employment than there are jobs. And through being a recruiter, it's not just your skill set anymore that's getting your job. You need to be a culture fit to the company. You need to have certain non-tangible skills when it comes to working for an organization. So having a personal brand means being all around branded in terms of having a good LinkedIn profile that shows you as a professional and that you're well connected in the field that you're working in. If ever I have an applicant and I go on LinkedIn and I can't even find them on LinkedIn, I find that very strange to me, because that just shows that they're not connected with other professionals. And a good employee is connected with other professionals, is connected with researching and staying on top of the latest technology. They're attending meetup groups. They're attending conferences. They're taking little certifications here and there to be on top of the top technology and new technology. So I find it immediately strange if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, because also as an employee, we rely on our employees to find employees. We rely on our top engineers to know other top engineers from other companies and help recruit them. If you are good at what you do, you have a little following of other professionals that are good as well. So having that brand is important. It's not just about like social media either. So I think a lot of people think, oh, a brand means I need to be on Facebook and Twitter and all that. And that's not the case. It's about building a reputation within your industry where people know you and come to you as a subject matter expert. So that means you can maybe create some blogs or write some published articles in a local journal based on, again, your industry, or attending these, like I said, meetup groups, or being on a panel discussion, or doing guest lectures at a college, or it's just being a subject matter expert. And that's what I mean by brand. it shows that you're a professional. It shows that you do more than just coming into the office at 9 in the morning and leaving at 5 or 6 p.m. There's more to an employee than just the skills you present to the table. And that's what I mean by your personal brand. So if you want me, do you want me to dive into the book with that?
Yeah, sure. So, well, first, I just love this breakdown of the personal brand is really just your reputation with other people outside of you, right? It's how people think about you, how people see you, whether or not they respect you. And
Right.
if you just go in, you punch the clock, you do the work, and you leave without building relationships outside of that, then your personal brand may be really solid, like the people may respect you in your position, but you're not respected in the industry. You're not
Correct.
respected in the bigger, broader sense, just in your community, right? Because
Yeah.
people haven't had a chance to meet you and understand that, wow, you're really a rock star who is absolutely a subject matter expert in this field. We had no idea because we never met you before. We never heard of you. But like you said, if you can just get out, go to a meetup and present, or go to a meetup and just talk to people about what they're doing, be a guest on a podcast. Hey, be a guest on Hello Tech Pros podcast and come talk about all your cool stuff that you're working on,
Right.
just having your voice out there, or your written language on a blog or whatever it is, but just putting those feelings out there, putting those thoughts and yeah, just putting yourself out there. That is what your personal brand is about.
Correct. Exactly. Exactly. And employers want that. They want employees to be out there because they're then promoting their brand and their company. And they also then know good people that they bring to the table. And recruiting is an expensive, a company to get a good employee is thousands and thousands of dollars. So if they can get it through you as another employee, as a referral, I mean, that's huge. And they see that value. I just recently hired somebody from Microsoft, and when he accepted the offer, the very first thing he said to me was, "And you better believe I'm going to be bringing some great engineers with me." That was music to my ears. That just saved my company about $60,000 in recruiting fees right there.
That's
It just
awesome.
knowing that I hired one person, and that one person is so well respected within his position, where when he leaves, he will be bringing some engineers with him. And he's also really well connected within the technical space as well, where he'll be talking about TE2, the company I work for. He'll be promoting our brand, and he'll be recruiting, not even realizing it. So definitely.
Yeah, I mean, people want to work for great organizations that have a good reputation, and part of the good reputation of the overall company is the reputation of the individuals there, right? So if
Correct.
you just happen to know of the manager because the manager has a personal brand that's out there, and you've seen them around town, or you've read their blogs, or you've listened to their talks at a conference or online, or the individual contributors that you're going to be working amongst, the peers that you're going to be wow, like these are the people I respect and admire and look up to, and I would love to sit down with them and pick their brain about XYZ, and I would love to have the opportunity to share the same project and be on the same team as these folks, because I respect them and I admire
Right.
them, and I want to work on the same kind of stuff.
Right. Exactly.
So, Alysse, let's talk about your brand. We've hinted about it a couple of times, your book, The Recruiting Snitch. Tell us all about it. What is Alysse Metzler's personal brand?
Sure. So yeah, I'm known around town as the recruiting snitch. I still think it's funny. So the reason I'm called that is because my book, I had actually surveyed 101 other recruiters in the country. And these were a mix between corporate recruiters and agency recruiters. And if you don't know the difference, I highly recommend you picking up a copy of the book, because that's the very first chapter is talking about the difference between the two recruiters. And it's important to know that, because you will be treated differently if you're talking to a corporate recruiter versus an agency recruiter. But I digress. So I surveyed 101 recruiters that were agency and corporate recruiters. And in that survey, I asked them very simple questions in terms of what's their biggest pet peeve when it comes to a candidate. Well, how long do they look at resumes? What do they like to see on a resume? How do they make their hiring decisions? What type of questions do they ask? What advice do they have for for recruits or recent college grads, all of those questions that every person out there submitting an application wants to know the answers to. Mm-hmm. And I took that data and I then wrote the Recruiting Snitch, because in essence, I'm snitching now on my fellow recruiters. I'm talking about salary negotiations. Is there really money there? How do you handle that? I'm talking about how to handle job hopping, how to handle unemployment, how to present yourself in an interview, what to say, what not to say, all of those things that you want to know, but you never really had the guts or even knew somebody maybe who was a recruiter that you could ask. So it's not just my opinion in this book. It's my opinion plus the backing of 101 other recruiters. And I feel like it may seem like a small sample size from all thousands of recruiters that are out there, but I do feel like what the data came back and the feedback is pretty well known, because I have not had one recruiter yet read the book and tell me that I was wrong or that they disagreed. So I think it's been out now since 2013, and I have not one recruiter complaining about the information in the book. So I think it's a pretty good representation. It's only 111 pages, so it's a great quick guide. I don't want anything where people had to sit down for weeks at a time to decipher through. I wanted something where if you're looking for a job, or you're a current college student or recent college grad, or you're employed, but you just want to know what the market is like and how to navigate these waters for the future, you could sit down and read the book in 2 hours. And a lot of people have been highlighting and taking notes, and they say just keep it in their briefcase just as a guide, because it's been able to help them in certain areas of the recruiting process. So it covers all the way from, unemployment and how to handle that, through the application phase, the resume phase, the phone interview phase, on-site phase, offer phase, and then just some other kind of inside secrets and stuff that recruiters really think. It talks about networking and building your brand and LinkedIn, social media, and again, in a very short 111-page book. And it also has, at the end of each chapter, there are unedited comments from the recruiters from the survey. So again, you get to see that the feedback from the surveys was definitely real, and it wasn't just my opinion.
Yeah, I love that. There's, 101 recruiters. You could say, wow, that's a lot. Or you could say, oh, that's not very many. There's tens of thousands of them all over the world, in different... Right. But if you just look at it as far as the trends, right, you're not trying to find every answer from every individual and collate them, all this kind of stuff. But just, are there big trends where you see things happen over and over again? I'm trying to get to the 80% solution that's going to work for me, and not look at every single little person and every single little niche, right? That's probably overkill. And like you said, that's too much study and too much reading if I were going to dive into that. So just give me the highlight reel, man. What do I need to do to get this job? What do I need to do to get this promotion? How do I get more money when I'm going into the negotiation process? Because from the person coming in from the outside, if you don't have any context there, if you're going in kind of blind, it can be really, really stressful. Even if you got friends on the inside, your friends may have signed clauses that say they can't talk about their compensation, and they're not allowed to share any details. Many, many companies have that policy in place. So still, you're coming in blind. I want to do the best for me, my personal career. I want to do the best for my family. But I don't want to come across like a jerk at the same time. So I think having these tips in place ahead of time before you go into that conversation is absolutely crucial. So you kind of know what you can push for, what you can ask for, and when to just kind of lay it all out on the table and say, you know what, it's fair. What you're offering is fair, and it sounds good to me. Let's go for it.
Sure. So I think the first thing to understand is you have to know what type of candidate you are. So I talk about that in the book, but if you're an active candidate, meaning you're unemployed, you've been unemployed for maybe a month or so, and you're working, you may be on a severance package. You're an active candidate. You are actively looking for a job. Right there, your negotiating power is pretty limited because the employer knows it's either this or you're on your severance or unemployment. Okay, so I know that sounds kind of brutal, but it's true because if you're a good employee and you've been on top of your network and branding and you lose your job, you should be able to pick up a job within 3 to 4 weeks. Easy. If you're a true professional and you're good at what you do. But if months go by and you don't have a job, an employer is immediately going to say they've lost their negotiating power, first of all, with money, because they know you have nothing coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And why has it taken this long? Why haven't you found anything? Why haven't people been knocking at your door? And I know some people may be shaking their heads right now like, well, it's not that easy, Alysse. Actually, in the technical world, if you're a good engineer, if you're a good analyst, if you're a good technical architect, you got people knocking at your door. Because as you've said many times, there is a war on technical talent. So that right there is something to keep in mind. If you're an active candidate, your negotiating power is very slim there. So now, if you're a passive candidate, meaning you're not looking, you're happy in your job, but you have a recruiter knocking at your door, you got some negotiating power there because they want you and they want you to leave your current job. So they need to come up with a package that is better financially for you and a better opportunity for you. Or it could be a lateral financial opportunity for you, but a better opportunity, meaning you have more direct reports or it's more into their career that you want to go, more aligned. So a employer knows if they're actively poaching a person, they're going to have to come up with some money and a better opportunity. So that's the first thing there. You got to know what type of candidate you are. So what does that mean? That means the best time to look for a job is what? While you currently have a job. Mm-hmm. So even if a recruiter doesn't come to you, but you throw in an application because you see a better opportunity and maybe a promotion for you, but you're still pretty happy in your current position, you're still actually considered passive. So a recruiter is going to call you and ask, why did you apply? That's when you say, I'm actually really happy with what I do. I'm just kind of putting some feelers out there. I see this as a better opportunity for a promotion. I know in my current job, I won't be able to get promoted until the guy above me quits and he's not leaving for 10 years. So
right.
I'm really kind of just putting some feelers out there. But, in order for me to take this opportunity, it would definitely have to be a better financial opportunity for me and better growth in the future for me. And then the recruiter will know, okay, I need to give this person some extra money and make it a better career opportunity. So does that make sense to you, Chad, when I explain that?
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. I guess the questions that I have that I think many of the audience members may have is, when is the appropriate time? Like, how long do you need to be in your current role before you start looking to grow into new opportunities? Is there a time frame of, okay, don't do it like every 12 months or if you've been there longer than 10 years, like it's definitely like past time you should start looking. Any
Sure.
guidelines there?
I would say this, it all depends on the position, right? So if you're already in a director position, you want a VP role, obviously that's going to be probably about 5 to 8 years to get that VP title. But if you're just bumping up in levels of, say, a software engineer, you come in as entry level, then you have staff level, then, senior level, an engineer should be bumping up in a job title every 2 years. So then that way, after 6 years, if you see an engineer that has grown maybe 2 to 3 levels, that's pretty natural career progression. So I would say the sweet spot is a 2-year average, because I believe in 2 years, you have enough experience under your belt to take what you know, master what you know, take on more, and then go to your manager or your leader then and say, okay, this is what I've done, this is what I performed, and this is what I've done above and beyond what you've expected of me. So now I feel like we can maybe talk about that next decision or that next role or that next step in my career. And you should be having these career conversations every time you have a performance review. Not a one-on-one. If you have a weekly one-on-one, you don't need to. But if you have a performance review, your manager should know what your career goals are, and you should know what you need to do to get to that step. I have a lot of clients that come to me and say, I haven't been promoted in 2 to 3 years, but I'm doing more work. I just keep getting my 3% annual raise and my bonus, but I'm not getting any more, and I feel I'm ready for a bigger opportunity. The very first question I say is, well, have you told your manager this? And they say, No. I just feel like my work speaks for itself. They should
Mhm.
know that I should be promoted by now. Well, closed mouths don't get fed. And an employer will keep plugging away, a manager will keep plugging away, knowing they're getting more work out of you and paying you a smaller amount. But if you come to them after a year during, let's say your first performance review and say, have it written out of what you've accomplished, what things you succeeded in, what have you created, and then what have you done above and beyond that job description that you were hired into, and then present to them what your career plan is and what you feel the next step would be. And then ask them, do you feel I'm ready for that next step? If not, what can I do to get to that stage? And can we maybe look at this in 6 months as opposed to waiting a whole year? You have to own your own career. You can't,
Mhm.
your manager is not thinking about that.
Yep.
They could be the best manager ever, but they're not, they have other things they're working on strategic wise and leadership wise. You need to own your career. And have that in writing and save those emails, save that documentation and present it to them in a nice fashion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just published an episode recently. Episode 145 is about crucial conversations, specifically with anxiety. But there, I had a whole, just like a 10-20 minute diatribe on this issue right here. Like, if you are shy, if you're bashful, if you're just passive and you just sit back, you do your great job, but then you sit back and just expect that the company is going to take care of you. They're going to give you lots more money every year. They're going to promote you at the appropriate times. That if that happens, awesome. But many times that doesn't happen unless you ask for it, or at least have the conversation about it and say, hey, these are my career goals. These are my expectations. And here's what I want to get to. Now, how are you as the manager going to help me achieve that goal? Is it going to be put me on harder projects? Is it going to be give me more responsibility? Okay, great. Then let's do that. And then provide me feedback and counseling and mentoring throughout the year. But then at the end of the year or the end of the 6 months or whatever, then I expect that promotion, or I expect
Right.
that bonus, or I expect that money. And if things aren't aligned, then you gotta hold everybody accountable to that. Say, well, I gave you the opportunity and you didn't follow
Mhm.
through on the monetary side of it, so now I'm going to find something else. But you
Right.
have to have that conversation. If you don't have it, they don't know you're looking for it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And then that's the time then where you start looking.
Be a passive candidate where the recruiter's knocking on your door wanting you because they see you as a go-getter who's
Yep.
just dominating the relationships. Alysse, I
Exactly.
could talk about this all day long, but unfortunately we're running out of the time. Before we go, do you have any parting words of wisdom for the audience? Then share the best way that we can connect with you. Then we'll say goodbye.
Sure. Yeah. My website is www.recruitingsnitch.com. So you can contact me on my website. You can also find me on Twitter at Alysse Metzler. Also on LinkedIn. I'm the only Alysse Metzler on there. It's spelled ALYSSEMETZLER. And of course, definitely pick up the book, The Recruiting Snitch, on Amazon.
And any parting words of wisdom for the audience?
Network, network, and network. And I would say just get out of your comfort zone. You're losing a lot of opportunity if you're not out there connecting with people and creating some good professional contacts. So I think definitely get out. Give yourself a challenge, maybe once a month, to attend a meetup group, because those are smaller sessions, or put something in your calendar once a month just to have coffee with an old friend or an acquaintance or an old manager or coworker. But make it a monthly thing. Put it on your calendar and make sure you do it so that's 12 connections in a year. I think that's a great way to start, especially if you're uncomfortable with attending networking events.
Awesome. Great stuff. Alysse, thank you so much for joining me on Hello Tech Pros today. I really value this insight in this conversation. This is stuff that I wish I would have known 20 years ago. I think it would have helped me a lot, if I could have had this information and battling that social anxiety at the same time. It would have been great tools to have in my toolbox in order to, better my career and better my personal brand when I was first getting started in this, because otherwise they're hard lessons to learn the hard way. It's tough. So I really appreciate you sharing with us. Tech pros, if you're in this position where you think you are ready to get to the next level, if you think you're ready to get that next promotion, if it's been a while since you've gotten that raise or that promotion or that bonus, and you feel like you're really, really putting in that hard effort, you're putting in that quality effort, you are meeting or exceeding the expectations of the job role that you're providing or the next job role up, then you need to have that crucial conversation with your boss about getting to that next level. So if you haven't already, go back and listen to Hello Tech Pros episode 145. You can find that at hellotechpros.com/145. And it's about crucial conversations and setting up those conversations with your manager. I've also got several episodes on performance reviews, how to self-assess for a performance review, and I've got 3 different episodes on that. I'll link it all up in the show notes here, so you can check that out at, what are we? I have no idea what episode this is. In just a moment, right after, I'll edit in and I'll give you the episode number for the show notes page today, and then you can go check it out. Either way, you need to have a conversation with your current boss, or you need to start networking with maybe potential future employers. I would say do both at the same time. You've been listening to Alysse Metzler, and I'm Chad Bostic. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/159. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been People Friday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I discuss entrepreneurship. On Sunday, being unplugged. Monday, motivation. Tuesday, productivity. Wednesday, leadership. Thursday, technology. And then back again on Friday to talk people and communication. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.